Today we're making pasta with beef and pickles, paying homage to an iconic instant noodle. We start with the beef. Really hot pan with a generous amount of high smoke point neutral oil. Beef mince goes into sear. First, we want to rapidly evaporate the surface moisture. Then, we get past boiling point and start developing complex, meaty flavors via the Maillard reaction, and later, nutty, roasted notes thanks to caramelization. We'll also render out most of the fat, allowing us to control how rich we want our sauce to be, and later use some of that fat for our pickles. If time permits, spread out your mince. Leave it in the fridge uncovered to dry the surface. This would help with your browning and preventing your mince from weeping when it hits the pan. Today, time does not permit, so we'll do it in batches. Now, beef comes out temporarily. We determine how much fat we want to add back into our pot. With all this beautiful concentrated Maillard goodness and caramelized sweetness, we continue to build flavors. Ginger goes in for some background heat. Scallion to form our savoury base and provide some subtle sweetness. In essence, we're building a flavoursome, salty, spicy base to be balanced by acidic, funky pickles later. Once you can smell the fragrance from your aromatics, beef goes back in. And we continue to build Chinese five spice to impart some sweet licorice from the star anise, deep warmth from the cloves, sweet woody note from the cinnamon, citrusy brightness from the Sichuan peppercorn, and some herbal sweetness from the fennel seeds. Now we make it spicy. Kashmiri chili powder for color, heat, and fruity note. I like it spicy. And to round the spiciness, sweet paprika for some sweet red pepper depth. And we allow our spices and chilies to bloom in our rendered beef fat. Now we season. Soy sauce for salinity, umami, and fermented complexity. You want to aim for 1% salt of the weight of your mince, which usually works out to about 5% soy sauce. But check the back label. Now we add a generous amount of water. And simmer until tender, about an hour to an hour and a half. Our sauce is nearly ready. We now prepare our pickles. The main objective is acidity and texture. Today, we have some capers, gherkins, 2 types of pickled chillies, and pale onions for a good mixture of sweet, sour, depth, and crunch. You can use anything you like. The only thing to bear in mind is heat sensitivity, because not all gherkins are created equal. Many commercial brands use vinegar to mimic the acidity from fermentation. Nothing wrong with that, but their texture will not stay with high heat. So check the back labels. If you see mostly salt, you can add them anytime. If you see mostly vinegar, add them last. Hot pan, our rendered beef fat from earlier goes in. We add a fresh round of aromatics. This time, we want the zesty freshness from the ginger, the oniony fragrance from the scallion. No more than 30 seconds to maintain their pungency. Chopped pickled chili, the hot one, goes in to round out its flavors and cook out a bit of that grassy note. Once you can feel it in your eyes, we lower our heat. The milder form of pickled chili in for that smoky, roasted depth from the pimentals. Capers in for that burst of umami and acidity. We've chopped everything except for the capers for that precise reason. Now, stove off, gherkins and pale onions in to maintain that sweet, sour crunch. Mix everything together, for the flavors to melt. Everything comes out temporarily. Same pan, no need to rinse. We cook our pasta. Medium heat. We skim some of this rendered fat from our sauce. All that beautiful flavors, pasta straight in. Counterintuitive, but we want this yummy fat to coat our pasta and in turn slowing down the starch release, gently toasting the surface at the same time. Once everything is coated in this beautiful fat, we ladle in our meat sauce. Top up with boiling water. We treat this like a risotto, agitating, rubbing the surface for our pasta to release its starch, thickening the sauce and absorbing flavors in the process. You can use any dry pasta with this method, but short pastas tend to be less labor intensive. This way you also don't need to reduce your sauce aggressively. You can do it just before serving. And for the first half of the cooking time on the packaging, you can afford to be quite generous with your water. Look at this. This is the texture you can achieve with this method. Once you're happy with the texture of your pasta and the consistency of your sauce, stove off. We add 1 round of our mixed pickles now for us to gauge the seasoning and for the flavors to meld with the residual heat. For me, just a touch of Chinese black vinegar to bring some complex brightness. Generous amount of black pepper, sharp, earthy heat. We can plate. Last round of scallion green for that garlicky bite, freshness. And this is pasta with beef and pickle.